Hello everyone, this is Krotic giving you Game 4 in a best of 7 series between Glade and Az here on Lost Temple. Currently, Glade has a 3-0 lead over Az at this stage in the game, and we'll see if Az will be able to force a Game 5. Now, looking at the title card, I just realized that this is Australia versus Australia, so there will be one Australian player in the finals of the Lasik Vista Eye Specialist Tournament. If you're in the market for Lasik and you are living within the Malaysia area, go ahead and check out their website. It is vista.my. Now we see one probe moving out by Az. So Az moving out with this probe, most likely going to throw down a pylon, warp in a pylon here, and then continue to do some scouting across map here, making sure that it is not going to be what a close ally spawn. Meanwhile, it's by Glade. Glade currently just doing a standard opening, nothing too out of the ordinary, getting an Overlord. We'll be able to get that Overlord in the air in just a second, and now continuing to train up more and more drones as well. So this Overlord will be able to gain sight into this base, and now Az pretty much opening with what I expected him to open, a low ground pylon with a gateway. Perhaps we'll get a forge here, and then try to go for that economic game. So he's been trying to win this game with economy as opposed to any small early aggression. Haven't seen any 4-gate pushes. However, the Zerg player will always know what exactly the Protoss player is doing, as it has an Overlord in the air. And as this drone now tries to take down this one pylon, will we see an early assimilator or not? That will be the key question, as without that early assimilator, it does not make sense to go for that cybernetics core. So Az does not be looking to going for that early assimilator, may just be trying to go for a 2-gate push with Zealots. And a 2-gate push with Zealots would be fairly strong, especially as this pylon will not get taken down by this drone. And Glade, once again, just trying to take down this one pylon, getting it down to 100 shields, and then backing off. We do see one drone and one probe now coming in over here. The probe saying, "Eat my ionic particles," as this one drone just constantly following this probe, and that probe unable to really get away, as both units have the same movement speed as they continue to just walk up there. Oh, very nice. As that turn happened, and the drone was able to get off one quick attack, and now we see that this one probe is finally moving away. However, back over here, one Overlord hanging out above this one gateway, able to see exactly what Glade is, what Az is doing, and now it looks as though Az might wanting to be setting up a low ground nexus, already doing a very, very fast expansion. We do see 4 drones now moving out, and now a lot of Zerglings, so this is going to be a very, very aggressive play by Glade. Glade moving out with early drones and Zerglings. We do see a second Zealot now being trained in another pylon, so very, very critical that this pylon gets up and running, as we do not want this pylon to get taken down. And now we do see a lot of probes here, so it's going to be probe and Zealots versus Zerglings here, and these drones not quite sure what to do. All these drones not mining, so there is going to be a little bit of an economic hit as these Zerglings now try to take down these units over here, getting a couple quick zaps and a couple free quick hits there, as now we have a forge trying to be warped into play, a Zealot now trying to pull back as well. So now this choke point is even more narrow. However, those Zerglings, it's going to be able to deal more damage here, and wow, just sorry about that, a little pop-up. Once again, Zealots continuing to engage back and forth, and will they be able to fight and continue to deal damage here? However, the Zealots and Zerglings continuing to fight, and now finally able to pull back. So a very, very small group of Zealots, very low on hit points, able to just slowly have their shields recharged. More Zerglings trying to come in. However, they will not be able to deal that damage. And it looks as though Az would now set up a low ground expansion and try to come up in this economic game and continually. Let's close that window. Make sure that no more pop-up happen anymore. Anyway, Zerglings now sitting outside this front door and just trying to make sure that no Zealots try to move out and engage. We do see that Az is setting up his nexus here. Meanwhile, Glade also setting up a hatchery on the low ground. So both players playing very heavily into a lot of minerals, trying to just simply use Zerglings and Zealots to hold off this attack. And now in comes a gateway. So as that gateway finishes, that means that this one photon cannon will be able to warp in. And as that photon cannon warps in and starts racking up those kills, we'll be able to hold off this attack. These Zerglings will not be able to put any pressure, and with no assimilator down, no extractor down, that means Glade will not have any gas for roaches or any range units, and will not be able to deal damage towards these buildings. We do see that gateway now canceled for a cybernetics core, and now also getting a second photon cannon, a Zealot now running along that backside. And now Az needs to get a very, very strong economy going. We do have an assimilator finally transferring 3 probes into there. taking a look at the harvester count, we have 14 or 15 harvesters for Az, 19 for Glade. So both sides still very, very small in terms of their economy. Both of their economies took an early hit when the drones and Zerglings of Glade try to rush into the base of Az countered with probes and zealots. Now with 2 photon cannons in this position, it will be very difficult for any of these Zerglings to run into here. And we'll have to wait until roaches are able to come out in order to try to take down these front buildings. Now back over here, we now see these drones being pulled off from the main mineral patch. So Glade will be able to start mining from 16 mineral patches much more quickly. And because he's power droning with 1 queen off of this hatchery, will be able to get a lot of larvae very quickly. You can see currently sitting on 5 larvae. We'll be able to just continue to train up more and more. However, Az does have a significant gas lead now, as he is mining from 2 assimilators, getting 250 gas, or 224 gas per game minute, while Glade is not getting any gas at all. We now see that a robotics facility coming into play, so I'm a little curious as to what the robotics facility is going to be used for, as the robotics facility can only train up immortals and essentially at this point immortals, colossi, warp prisms, and that's it. And I don't see how any of those units would be altogether that useful. Perhaps an observer to come into this position and gain sight. However, I think in a more aggressive play, perhaps even Twilight Council, in order to get Stalker Blink and then putting in some early pressure would have paid off much better, as he does have a stronger economy going and also already getting gas. With this Nexus down over here, we now see the harvester count at 28 versus 33. Level 1 weapons upgrade also being researched as well. And now more and more drones just being macroed up. So 8 drones currently being trained out by Glade. And now Glade continuing to get a very strong economic lead. You'll see that he will have about 45 harvesters compared to 31. And now if Glade decides to, Glade will be able to also take this hatchery as well and then run off of 3 bases, knowing that he needs to stay up on top of Az's natural strategies. So we now, or Az's natural bases. So we now have these Zerglings deciding to pull back. 1 drone making its way, will grow up to be a hatchery in just a second. There we go, gonna grow up to be a hatchery, as now more and more drones continuing to be macroed. Army-wise, both sides very small. 350 versus 175. 1 Overlord was shot down. I'm not 100% sure where. So now we do see some supply lock, as perhaps the Overlord here was shot down by these sentries. Where the sentries were able to shoot down an Overlord there. As these Overlords now deciding to pull back, we now see another pylon here by Az. So Az wants to make sure that no Nidus worms appear within his base. A hatchery now over here, nearing halfway completion, and Az does know about it. So Az able to see that this hatchery and realizes that once Glade is able to get this expansion up and running, he will be far behind. Do we see the robotics bay, only additional gateways, and not doing anything else, not getting a robotics bay for Colossi? And I think that may be a mistake. He definitely needs Colossi, and then if he's able to warp in units on that front side, those Colossi just able to traverse this cliff and able to deal a lot of damage very easily. We do see some Zerglings now continuing to be macroed up over here. So, and now creep tumors being used by Glade. So Glade just trying to use as many creep tumors as he can, spread it out across the map and gain sight across the map. Zerglings moving at an incredible speed on creep tumors, almost moving at 6.21 and or 6.11, I believe. As these Overlords just continue to offer sight. Roaches do not have that movement speed upgrade just quite yet. Taking a look, now getting that research. Not going to get the tunneling claws though. Instead opting for that movement speed research. Roach is moving at 3.9 off of or on creep, and then 3 off of creep with that movement speed research. So that is significantly faster than a stalker when on creep, and then still faster when it is off of creep. We now see some stalkers and sentries now trying to engage. However, these Zerglings going to be able to just run in here, and Az not watching his units and getting free hits on these units as these stalkers and sentries were trying to take down these destructible rocks, finally getting those force fields off. But this is just going to be a very bad sight here. So very nicely done. Are we going to get another force field? No, not able to get another force field here to try to trap those Zerglings. And that was just really badly played and badly done. Az losing a lot of his army in that fight and unable to even get any of these destructible rocks out. So this Overlord in this scouting position just very much worth its minerals, enabling the critical information that Az was trying to move out. We do see 1 observer sitting here, and I'm surprised that Az is not getting a second observer in order to scout out this location. This is a common place for Overlords to be, and it doesn't even I don't think Az even realizes there is an overlord here. Finally, Glade now can continue to get an economic lead, sitting on 64 harvesters, and also mining off of these gold minerals. So at 2100 minerals a minute versus 1400, Glade is getting a 700 mineral lead every single game minute, and finally getting another robotics facility. But those robotics facilities will only be able to train up immortals, and those immortals are not going to be strong against those hydralisks that we saw earlier, only against those roaches. I thought I saw hydralisks. Or was it just a figment of my imagination? It looks like it was just a figment of my imagination, as Glade only has roaches, so those immortals will be able to shoot down those roaches fairly easily. We finally see more stalkers now moving out, so it's going to be stalkers and immortals with some sentry support against a large army of infestors, roaches, and zerglings. Those infestors will be able to get those fungal growths off and prevent any additional movement by those immortals and those stalkers. Immortals only have a range of 5. However, deal an amazing 55 damage per attack against roaches. Roaches and zerglings now swarming as well. Infestors now on the ground. Do we have neuroparasite being researched? No, we do not. So those infestors will not be able to gain control of those immortals. Having an immortal turn on you and then start firing back at those stalkers would just be a great shift in the game if it indeed does happen. We now see one changeling making its way over, just crawling along the ground, going to walk into this warp gate area, and will it be enough? So this one changing just sitting here, gaining sight, able to see all of these units here and figure out exactly what Az is trying to do, and we'll know as soon as these units are in fact moving out. We do see more zerglings just continuing to be macroed up. Looking at the upgrades, we have the level 2 carapace upgrade and the level 2 melee attack upgrade. So these roaches have 1 or 0-1 upgrades, while these zerglings have 1-1 upgrades. These zealots have a 1-0 upgrade, so they would not be able to two-hit any of those units. And now we see Az getting the level 1 armor upgrades as well. So with that armor upgrade, they will be taking reduced damage from those zerglings. However, without a Twilight Council, will not be able to upgrade anything. And now we finally see Colossi being trained, no extended thermal lance range research being trained just quite yet, and now a chrono boost being wasted on a robotics facility, as it's unable to train a Colossi. Now getting now able to finally, as it is no longer supply locked. Zerglings and roaches now making their way and swarming across the map, getting into position here. We now see a creep tumor being laid down, so all of these units will be able to push in very, very heavily. These units need to get in the proper positioning in order to be able to fight back, and now we see infestors getting a fungal growth off across all of these units. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Az and Glade here on Lost Temple.